There we go. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming back for another week. I really appreciate you being here, coming here to check this out, whether you're doing it live or you're going to watch it on the recording. Just again, thank you for coming along and just checking out whatever it is that we have to say on today. And there's a lot of things to talk about. Um, there's a lot of things that we can talk about, for this week. And so, in trying to figure out what we're going to bring today. It was challenging because I didn't want to go down that road of what's in the news, that topic, that specific topic that's in the news, which is tariffs, right? And but at the same time, I think that there is something there that's really important that can take us down a lot of different ways, and then bring it all back home in terms of educating ourselves on some connectivity, some things that are related to tariff and but yet are related to our industry, right? A lot of times we get involved with things and we really don't take the time to understand how things are connected, how it impacts us, what we are really getting into. Give you a quick example. There are a lot of people that got into the trucking industry, right? They decided that they were going to get into the trucking industry, but did not really have an understanding of what it was all about. So when they got into the trucking industry, it became on the job training, right? So they had to figure it out once they got on the job, once they became a driver. They might have went to driving school, CLD school, and they got certified as to become a driver, but yet they did not really understand a lot of things about it. I've never been a driver, so I'm going to limit my comments on that, but this is just what I've heard in conversation. And then moving into the point of becoming, whether it's an owner operator or having a fleet of trucks, it's a whole nother game, right? There's so many different things that you did not think about. You become a business owner, just like the person that owns Walmart or the corporation or whatever you want to, any business, you are a business. There's a lot of things that are involved. So as we move beyond that, and we look at our journey, we start to, sometimes it can stifle us, right? Getting into something we really weren't prepared for it. And sometimes it's good. We figure it out, right? But if we have a choice, which way would you rather go? Some people say that I would not have built this business, whatever that business might be of theirs, they would not have built that business if they had known what it was that they were going to go through. Is that I would not have gone through it. That's not what I would have wanted to do. So, but then it creates a big reward for them in the end. They learn a lot through it, right? So somewhere you've got to get that schooling. So if it's before you get into it, at least you kind of have an idea as to what you're getting into. If you get a little knowledge or schooling, you're still going to have that on the job training. But and then at the same time, who knows? You as one says, they might not have made that decision, to go that route. But either way, the thing is that we always should be learning. That is the key. That's what I would like to put out there is that we should always be learning no matter what. I don't care how old you are. I don't care if you're at the top of your game. I remember back in the day, this goes back to the 90s, when I was in sales. Um, I had saw a video and they said, "Hey, watch this guy." He was in a room all by himself, and it looked like he was talking to himself or like he was about to be interrogated, right? And what they said was that this is the world's best, greatest salesperson. All right, he was from somewhere over in Asia and an Asian country, and he was just talking to himself, you know. And do you know why he was doing that? Okay. The reason why he was talking to himself, or at least in the room by himself, he was preparing for his appointment. As many times as he has done this, with whatever accolades that has come his way as being the best salesperson in the world, he still practiced. He still prepared, right? You cannot ever be at the top of your game and just quit and think you've arrived, right? So, how does this relate to trucking? Well, I definitely believe training, coaching, gaining knowledge of your field is very important. Not just from the standpoint of a situation arises and then you learn, but being able to be proactive in that. Learn, you know, continually learn. Maybe you have dry vans, learn about flatbeds, learn more about, different industries, different sectors of the economy, learn about global things, just learn things. There are things that there's so many things that are connected and we don't realize it, right? And in that, we become a much better person for our business, for ourselves, for our family, for employees, for the partnerships that we have, for other companies that we haul freight for. Just grow. Okay. So that's my message is let's just grow. Let's grow together. That's what I've always been about, and I'm really excited about it. All the time when I hear people tell me of things that they're doing, things that have happened new, things that they're looking to do that are new in their business, personally, whatever the case might be. So today, I know that was a long intro into where I'm headed with all this. It does go back to tariffs, right? And the thing about it is that these tariffs, there are a lot of things that are connected to it that we can pull out and talk about. And I think that the things that we'll talk about today, you'll see how they are connected to you from the standpoint of some people think these tariffs um, are crazy. There's no point in them. That we're just going to take ourselves to the bottom. And what I think is that those things are valid, but then at the same time, hmm, what are we really accomplishing here? What can we really accomplish here? What are we trying to accomplish here? And then that brings up a lot of different things, but I'm going to try to touch bases on them so that you might have a different perspective on all of this. Okay. Um, and it's just me thinking out loud, so to speak. And so again, I thank you for coming, and I appreciate you guys. We're here to bring stuff to you that can help you in your business and help you grow. All right. So as far as that goes, I took a lot of notes, and so I'm going to be looking all over the place, and hopefully I can bring this all home within the next 30 minutes. Um, and definitely, I'm still going to be working on trying to develop a platform where we can interconnect or where we can engage while we go through this stuff. All right, do some live stuff. But here's where I'm at. All right, so we have the tariffs, and right now there is this big tariff war that's going on. Now, I said tariff war, right? A lot of times when we think about war, we're talking about actual military equipment, personnel, on troops on the ground, fighting, death, injury, all that stuff. And everyone wishes the war would end. So we have this war here where we don't have all of that going on, but we do have a fighting back and forth, right? And it's kind of like these heavyweights are going at it. The two heavyweights are the two biggest economies in the world. America being first, China being second. Okay, that's important. All right, America first in the sense that we have the greatest economy in the world, and then you have China, which is second to America. All right. Um, Now they are second. My understanding is, though, they are second in population. India is first in population in terms of the most people, but China relinquished that title, I think, last year. If that happened, I'm pretty sure it did. I know that it was scheduled to happen sometime last year. Um, but at any rate, so we have these two. It's like a staring match. Who's going to blink first, right? So we have Trump where he put these tariffs out there on the world, put a 90-day hold on it. I'll be honest with you, I'm already exhausted talking and just thinking about this because there is just so much volatility that goes on. You just don't know what's going to happen the next day. You don't even know what's going to happen minute to minute. I mean, it's like in a single day, it feels like a year, you know, but there's so much activity that's going on with this stuff. But at any rate, so we have the tariffs. And right now, there's a 90-day pause on the world in regards to these tariffs, excluding China. So China and America are going back and forward with this tariff, and one is raising it, the next one raises their tariffs. I mean, it's like day to day. Another raises their tariff, the other one goes to sleep. When the other country is awake, they raise their tariff, and it just seems like it's been going on all year. So I don't know where we're at with these tariffs, to be honest with you, because by the 10 minutes that I've been talking or whatever it is, who knows where we're at. But 100, I think it was 120, 104 was it imposed on China, America, then 125, and then I don't know, maybe 140. I don't know what it is right now, but we're going back and forward, which is a crazy thing. And when I just look at it on the surface, I'm like, this is crazy. You know, it's going to create problems. It's going to create some real problems. There are going to be people that are going to suffer for this. Here in America, you know, that's the only thing I can really think about this because this is where I'm at. Um, there are going to be people that are going to lose jobs. You know, there's a lot of stuff that comes in from China. We're going to have to source all that stuff from somewhere else. Businesses are going to be impacted. Um, you know, households are going to be impacted. Lower income definitely is going to be impacted. Um, kids, kids are going to be impacted. Um, but the one thing that let me start here. When we talk about the economy, all right, I want you to understand. I want to go through this to be able to give some understanding. At least this is the way I see things. All right. When we talk about economy, we can throw that word out there, and what does that mean? There's a Progressive, I think, commercial, and the kid is in the kitchen with the Progressive people, and he asks, "What is the economy?" And he says, "It's that thing." You know, they don't give him an answer, and he said, walks away and says, "I'll look it up on the internet." And so to talk about it, when we talk about the economy, think of it this way. There would not be an economy if there was not a consumer. A consumer is all of us, is you and I. So a consumer is what the word says. We consume, right? So we consume. That means we need things, right? And in that, in needing things, the things that we need is scarce, meaning that there's scarcity, meaning that there's a limit to the things that we want, right? So therefore, there's a price on it. So you can't consume everything, just pull it off of a tree, right? They say money doesn't grow on trees, right? So there's a scarcity to it. So it brings some value, right? But we consume things. So you have the consumer, which creates the demand for whatever it is, right? Whatever it is that they want. They want pants, they want shirt, they want cups, they want food. They consume things, goods, services, whatever. We're consumers. That's everyone. So in this economy, that's one part. Another part is the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur is the one who brings the whatever that is wanted, whether it's the service or the goods. So they are supplying what the consumer wants. All right. So we have those two. Now they have a need as well, and they need labor, right? So they have business here, and they need people to work and to be in the factories and what have you, and put these things together so that they can put it out to sell, right? So we've got the consumer, we have the entrepreneur, we have labor, and then we have the investor, all right? Now, the labor, they want to get paid. So we have an investor who supplies revenue, and that revenue helps to make this thing go. And so we cycle it around because then with that consumer, they're looking to get a return on their money, right? And therefore, the business, the entrepreneur, they have to make sure that this product is getting out there and it's getting sold in the stores or however it's getting out there. But they need to see a return, which is the investor. They need to see that return, right? And so these are the players that make up the economy. The economy is built up of supply and demand. Okay, demand and supply. I like it better that way. All right, so now we have this ball here, which we call the economy. We have influences, right? These influences make this economy do this. Expands, contracts, expands and contracts. And there are so many different influences, all right? Let's just list off a few, which could be government, right? Could come in and interject and cause some supply and demand. We have, government policies. We have weather. Weather can change things in this economy. Geopolitics, I think I said that right, can change things. We have war. War can change things. Health, population, all these different things can make a difference in the economy. Now, when I say economy, I'm talking about the U.S. economy. There's the global economy. There's other countries. There's even at your household level. We all have this economy that goes on. So, at any rate, so we have that. Now, moving along, we have here in America, when we are talking about tariffs, what I've not really studied much on, but I am, is how China is an enemy to the United States. And when I say enemy, some people might think of it in a warlike manner where we're actually fighting. We're on the front line and we're at war and we have guns and we have nuclear weapons and all that stuff. Okay, all that stuff exists. But I mean, for these two countries to fight in that way, that's not a good thing. You don't want to see that. I mean, at this level, at this point, we're talking about world destruction. We don't want that. But there are other wars that go on. You have people, they argue, they're at war. There are wars when it comes to, you can call it a war, businesses, right? Rivalries, whatever it might be. On the field, in sports, you have rivalries. So we have this rivalry going on between the United States and China. And when we think about it, and we go back in time, it's always good to go back in history because we can learn a lot of things. It explains what's happening today, and we can have a different perspective on it. Because a lot of times we see things, we pick up things, and we just kind of take it in for what we know, our limited knowledge and thoughts, and we come away with the wrong thing. But here's the deal. With China and the United States, is there's this, even with Russia, probably other countries, but there is this race to be the dominant force in the world. Okay, this dominant force, the greatest economy, the greatest nation, and this has gone back way in time. I mean, back in time, whether it's Genghis Khan or Caesar, the Roman Empire, and all these different periods in time. And right now, it's America's time. And I don't mean that in a conceited way. I mean it in that that's what it is. It's the dominant economy, dominant country in the world. It is, even before Trump got back into office. Okay. Even with other countries taking advantage of the United States, it's the world's most dominant country. Second in line is China. So the thing is that China would love to regain that dominance because at one point they were above America, and then China, I'm sorry, America passed China. Now, in that, there's a lot of things that I want to talk about, but I'm not going to because then I'll be too long here. But China, in their efforts to regain that title, they have done a lot of things that are not good. And with that, they have become an enemy to the United States. And when I say they have done a lot of things that are not good, I want you to think of it in this way. Okay. Say that you have baked some cookies, right? I like baking, all right? I really, really love baking, and I love baking cookies. Um, I would say it's a passion of mine. I really, really, really do. And it's not even about me eating cookies. I love to see other people eat them. I love how they come out. I love the art of it. And then once you bite into it, it tastes just as great as it looks. And yeah, if I could spend time doing that, I would. But I know they're not good for you. But at any rate, so let's say you have this cookie recipe, and your cookies are famous. They are well known in the neighborhood or in the your wherever you live. These you are known for these cookies, right? And what you're thinking about is, hey, you know what? I'm going to put my cookies out into the next neighborhood. I'm going to get my cookie. I want people to enjoy my cookies because they are to die for, right? Christmas time comes around, the holidays, just the treat for the kids or whatever you use them for, they can be used for. Your cookies are amazing. Everyone knows it, right? At least those that have tried them. But there's a lot of people who have not tried them, okay? So you invite some people into your home. I don't know, you meet up with them and you're out and about with your kids and you become friendly with some people. You invite them over and they have your cookies and they're like, these are incredible. Wow, how do you do it? It's my secret, but you can come get them anytime you'd like. I definitely will sell you some. No worries. Absolutely. They come back over. And then for some reason, they catch you in the middle of making your cookies. And for some reason, because I don't know why you don't have it memorized, the recipe, but the recipe is laying right there. And they just happen to scratch their glasses and be like, huh, that's curious. And they walk away. Next thing you know, your cookies are all over town. They're all over in the next neighborhood. They're everywhere. And you're trying to figure out, how did this happen? I didn't put these cookies out. It was those the people that came into your home, snapped a shot, clicked their glasses, was able to take a picture of your recipe, went back, produced your recipe, and next thing you know, boom, you miss that whole market. And your label is not on it. They have just stolen your recipe. All right. That is what has happened. And now, instead of you making those millions of dollars you could have made, you're still at that same level that you were while they're making the millions of dollars. So that was an example. I guess it was pretty long, but that was an example of, I hope it makes sense, but with China, it's similar to that. All right. So we're talking about one of the things that they have done in terms of trying to regain that dominance. And there's a lot of things that they have done. And one of them is they have stolen like intellectual property and other things from here, from the US, and taken it back. And they have reproduced it. And they have been able to, and they have a huge market, right? So they have a huge market to I mean, they're more, your manufacturing, your exporter, and what have you. So they can export to other countries as well, but they have been able to steal from America and produce after America has already developed whatever, whether it is from, companies, major companies, from schools, or whatever it is, they've been able to take that information and take it back and produce without development, without that research and development, that, what is it, R&D, without that, without actually doing research. It's kind of like this. If I develop I don't know, like say Facebook, right? And then someone comes over and then they take that idea and they get all the inner workings and they go over and they make this Facebook, and then all of a sudden they become huge. But this person over here, why would that be okay? Especially when there are things in place to say you cannot do that. And then they come over and they still, and my understanding is that, like, out of all that type of theft in the world, 80% of it is done in China. China steals, and um, and then they, so to speak, counterfeit it out there, and they make all this money. And I understand it's roughly around, I don't know, like 300 billion to 600 billion dollars a year that is lost because of that activity. Okay, so China becomes an enemy in that way, and this is all for them to get to that world dominance. Okay, I mean, one of the things that they did many years ago, I don't know when they did it, they went to a one child policy, meaning that I think it was one child policy. You can only have one child. They were trying to get a grasp on population growth, right? So how did that work out for them? Well, as I said, I think now they're second in population. And the mindset now with these young people is that I don't want kids, because I have freedom and they cost too much, right? I don't want all that. But China's like, wait a minute, we need kids. We need to increase our population. Our population is getting older. We need to replenish. And but they set the stage for that. And at the same time, they actually have issues with unemployment. They have a financial crisis. They have a real estate crisis going on. So they've set themselves up for failure in that way. So they're dealing with all that. But here's the thing, they're still trying to produce. They're still stealing, and they're producing all these products and things, and they're pushing it out there at any cost, at all costs. So that's a part of how they're trying to deal with that. But in doing all that, again, they're causing us to miss out on that market. Now, when they produce these items, watch this. Then they come back to the United States, and then they supply it here in the United States, these products. And so it's almost like the person who was producing those cookies, baking the cookies, you stole my recipe and now you're right across the street from me and you're selling. You're selling my cookies as competition to me. And that is part of what's happening with China. So then they're using American ingenuity and what have you to profit even here in America. So then the question is, how do you deal with that? So when Trump says, all right, 90-day hold on tariffs, which in itself is an issue, but not on China. For me, it's like, okay, I understand. I mean, I think if that's what he's thinking, if he's thinking about, the intellectual property and things like that, if he's thinking like that, that makes sense to me. I get it. Okay. But it's still a problem, right? We don't know where all of this is going to end. We don't really, it's unclear to a lot of people what the end game is. I'll give you a quick example. I've heard two interviews, actually. It was a young lady and a young man. I forget what her product was, but his was coffee. You might have heard of it. And he just got a contract for, I think it's Whole Foods, right? And that's Jeff Bezos, right? Or at least Amazon. But at any rate, he got a contract to put his product in Whole Foods. And unfortunately, with this tariff thing, that has because he sources, I believe, the glass jars from China, and unfortunately, that becomes an additional cost that he cannot afford. Although this is a time to be very excited about this new venture or this new opportunity, but unfortunately, because of that, it doesn't uh, really support him. Now, with this 90-day hold, it's still a challenge for him because he doesn't know what's going to happen. Then again, at the same time, he sources from China on the glass containers. Now, the young lady, she said that she had product in China, and she's been waiting to get this product, right? So it's there in China waiting to ship. But the problem is, it used to cost her $30,000 in debt. That was in her budget. But today, with the tariffs, she said it's over $200,000. And there's just no way. There's no way she can survive that. There's no way she can make that happen. So small businesses in the United States, this country is made up of majority small businesses. I mean, was it 90 some percent? I don't know, but it's huge. And China has been a very integral part of small businesses existing. We know for the manufacturing end of things. And so we have a situation where the world is so interconnected that we are spying on each other, we are praising each other, we're doing business with each other, we are, enemies with each other. It's so interconnected. It's incredible. But the thing is that, we have to be smart about how we deal with these situations because there are a lot of people that become affected by it. So when we put out these tariffs, I don't think that we have felt the impact yet, but I think it's coming. And there are those on the lower end of the economic scale where they're going to feel it pretty heavily. And that's just not something that they asked for, because that can have long ramifications. And I think that we really need to think about how we handle these situations. One other thing is that when we look at, we hear news about the stock market, the financial markets, and things like that. All this that I'm talking about, I want to bring it to trucking. All right. I want us to understand how all this stuff is interconnected and how we play a part because trucking is involved in all of this. Okay. So real quick, see what time I've got here. Okay. So as far as trucking goes or the financial markets, we have the stock market. We have Wall Street, Main Street, but we're talking about Wall Street. And all this matters. You have the stock market, and the stock market, which they call, the equities or equities market, the equities. When you think of that term, what I think of it, here's the way I think of it. And some of you probably don't even need this explanation, but the way I think of it is this. If I have a home, I want to build equity in it, right? But I own this home, right? But I don't own it in whole. I own part of it. I still have a loan or mortgage on it or whatever the case is, but I have equity, and that equity is mine. And what that means is this: if I owe a certain amount, but the value is here, so this is how much is still owed on it, and this is how much the value is. This is what I own. I own this. This is real money, right? I own that. That's mine. I can access that. I can access that through a loan, a second mortgage, a credit line, whatever. Or when I sell the house, That's mine. Now, if this goes up, right, in value, which that's what we bet on because the housing market has always been great, other than 2008, right? But it's always been great, and the value goes up, and the longer I keep it and things improve, I'm going to be making more money. I'm paying it down, but the value is going up. So that's good for me, right? So that's like my biggest investment for most people. So that's why I say it's good to own a home, right? Um, Now, and you can put your kids through school with that money. You can do a lot of things with that. So you have that. Now, if though it goes down in value, which it is very possible that that can happen, whether it's because of the maintenance of how you have the lack of care, or it's because the neighborhood, some things have been not going well in the neighborhood, and it's caused it to deteriorate, the property value is going to go down. Okay. So then you're still here paying on it, but this value is following it. So you're not gaining and you might even start losing. So if you sell your home, you're going to have less equity. It can get to the point where it's even and you make no money or that you're upside down. It just depends. Now, with that said, when this happens, you might sit back and say, I think we need to move because we don't want to lose out. And then you move, you get that money, you go somewhere else and you get a different house, right? So you had to make that decision to take your family and move to safety or move to a safer investment, right? So that when I say equities, I'm looking at stocks, I look at it in the same way. All right. So there is an investor, you invest in the stock. You have ownership in that company, right? So here we are, where you own part of this, and what you're betting on is that this company is going to gain in value, right? And you're going to make money. Put in $100, now it's worth whatever, and your return, it's $200, and so you've made money, right? But here's the thing: when it's not looking good, when it's not looking good, then the value of that stock can go down. And at some point, you've got to decide when to get out and take your dollars to safety. Okay. You just like the home. You got to decide when you're going to retreat or you're going to stay. Okay. Thinking it's going to bounce back. And so that's what happens, in stocks. So generally you're looking at the long term, just like with the house. It's an investment, just like the house. You can look at it as an investment. All right. So if you decide to leave, then where are you going to go? You still have to go somewhere, right? Just like with the house, with the house, you have to go somewhere. You've got to go live somewhere. So you got to find that safe place. And so what ends up happening is when that happens, the equity market is not looking too good. It's a risky place to be. But then you can go over here to bonds, right? You can put your money in that security. You can put your money in bonds. And the reason why we go there, it's safer. We're talking about U.S. Treasury bonds. We're talking about where it's backed by the United States of America, the greatest country in the world. It's solid. You can bet on that, right? And so that's what the how the world sees America. So then you put your money there in bonds, right? But you take your money out when the stock market is doing good, right? And you invest, and then those businesses can thrive because the money's come back. They can do what they need to do. But what if they're taking their money out of stocks and not really putting it over here in bonds, and we're not seeing any increase there, and we're seeing bonds even go down? So if we have this situation, then where are people putting their money? They have no confidence. What they're saying is they don't have confidence in the United States anymore. And that's not a good thing. Okay. That's not a good thing. So we were seeing that here recently, as was it yesterday? I think it was. Like I said, things move so quickly. And then we see that Trump has to make a decision. He said at one point, I'm not concerned about stocks, right? But when it was impacting the bonds market, then it was like, put a 90-day hold on things, you see. That you don't want to mess with, right? But then where are people going to put their money? They're going to put it in gold, maybe. And it seems like that's what's been happening. Those that have the money, right, to do all this, it goes into gold. So those people that have money, they're moving their money around. Gold is at over $3,200. It's never been that high before. I remember back when we were talking about investing in gold, it was some years ago and it was around what I want to say 600, 700 or whatever, and it got to $900. We didn't do it back then, but that was the talk. And yeah, it's at 3,200 today. So it looks like money is going into gold, and that's not a good thing in terms of, you know, looking at our financial markets. And then I don't know, maybe people are putting money under the bed. I don't know. But that's what we're looking at. Now, the reason I bring all that up is, when you're looking at these financial markets, you can look at them and you can see this volatility. I mean, it is just like emotions, really. That's basically the way I see it. We have knee-jerk reactions to situations, and the markets can tell us, how are we feeling, right? Do we feel good about things? Yeah, we got money in the markets. We can tell, we see it. But then when it's pulled out, no, we're not feeling good about things. So the markets really, I think, indicates how we feel. It might not say how, how the economy really is, but it definitely says how we are feeling at the moment, right? So with this all said, we have China, we have that situation, we have tariffs, and it's like, how do we deal with China? We're going to deal with them with these tariffs, right? Is that the best way to do it? Look at the market, see how people are feeling. At least Wall Street, see how Wall Street is feeling. And then at the other end of the scale, how are we feeling? Does anyone care? I don't know. But once it really, really hits us, man, we are going to have to make decisions, some really major decisions at this level. They can kind of still, the ones that have all the money, they can still play around and do some things, but it's going to make a difference. Now, remember, go back to China. We talked about 300 to 600 billion dollars due to this intellectual property theft and what have you. We're missing out on a lot of that money. We're missing out on a lot of that money. So what are you going to do about it? What are the options? Do nothing and just let it be status quo? I definitely think something should be done about it, but what is being done? So now Trump is doing what he's doing, and if that's a big part of why he's doing what he's doing, okay, I see it, I see you, but I just don't know if it's the best route to go. Okay. Now, when this all happens, here's what ends up happening in terms of the economy. Remember, we said we have influences, right? So we look at what's going on, and then we take notice that people are not spending like they used to. My understanding is that spending is still going on, which is incredible, but people will retreat, just like we talked about with the investors. They will retreat. When I say people, I'm talking about Main Street, me, all of us. We have to make decisions as to whether we continue to pay for this or make this purchase or decide, the types of food we're going to eat. It gets down to that point. We end up not spending money on luxury things, whether it's going out to travel or going out to eat or going out for entertainment and those type of things. Those type of things, they go away first. They're first on the list. They get chopped off the list. And so when that happens, whether it's purchasing a house, there's furniture and other things that don't get purchased. There's the intellectual property. There's where China is making all these things, and it's not happening here in the United States. We're not seeing that money here. So in trucking, as I always say, we follow the economy. When the economy's doing well, trucking's doing well. When the economy's not doing well, it's challenging for us. All these things that I've just mentioned affect our industry. It can reduce or increase the number of loads that are moving, right? When we miss out on all that opportunity that China has stolen, it impacts the trucking industry. When we have the tariff wars, and then things become pricier and we have inflation, people don't spend the money. If we're talking about, well, you know what, we've got to get to that point. We just have to go through this period. And once we get to that, where we can, where the way things are supposed to be, and we have manufacturing back here in America and all that good stuff, then, things are going to be the way they should be, and America's going to thrive. Yeah. Well, again, tariff war. It is a war, which means that there are people on the front line. There are people making calls in the back. There are people on the front line. People on the front line that suffer. And I mean, when I say suffer, I mean it's not, it's, do they recover? Are they injured? Is it fatal? All I know is war is not, there's nothing good about war, right? And so it takes time. This stuff takes time. Are we talking about that? Not that it takes time, so we shouldn't do it. Let's lay it out. Let's figure it out. Let's see what that looks like. Let's get everybody on board then. Or let's come up with a different plan. I don't have the answers, but I just know with what I'm seeing, feeling, hearing, and all that good stuff, um, it could get pretty ugly. And I'm not trying to create, sound any fire alarms or anything like that. I'm just saying that is the reality. Just as the economy, that's what the economy is. That's the reality of it. The economy is consumers, entrepreneurs, labor, investors, and then we have influences, like we talked about, and it affects the trucking industry. Okay. So we might have Doge running around and laying off people, letting people go in these different agencies and what have you. Doge doesn't have to come around to the trucking industry. We become, um, what do they call it? Collateral in that way. When all this stuff is going on, there's collateral damage. And, we can say, well, that's just how it is. And I get it. But at the same time, I'd like a little bit more thought put into all this when these decisions are made, or at least we be in on understanding what's going on and what the objective is. Where are we trying to get to? What is it? And if we're not able to get there, what does that look like? So for me, in terms of understanding, like that creates less loads, right? Can create less loads. And if we're looking at less goods being purchased and being moved across the country, then that's going to impact our industry, right? That is how it works. When the economy is doing this, which it does, we have the greatest economy in the world. Trucking is great. It doesn't need a million trucks, coming in every month, but we do need drivers. We do need carriers. We do need people in the logistics industry. And then when it's doing this, just like any company, there might be a time where people have to be laid off. So in our industry, unfortunately, there needs to be an exit of equipment and an exit of capacity. Okay. So that's just a natural thing. It follows the economy. But when we have the economy operating in a way that could be avoided in an adverse way, then that becomes a challenge. That becomes a challenge. That becomes a concern, I should say. All right. So again, my thing is about education, or at least being in the know, at least keeping yourself aware. I think that's very important. And when we understand the dynamics of things, I think that we can make better decisions, right? We can make better decisions about our business. We can make better decisions in terms of achieving our goals, better decisions in regards to making this business a true profession, one that you can be in for years to come, one that you can be a mentor in, one that there can be phil, phil, I can say that word every now and then, uh, philanthropy, right? A philanthropist, you can be that within this industry. Um, you can retire, right? Have a good career financially, be able to put some money out there to be able to invest and see it grow and really make it something. Open up another business, whatever, you know. But I think that we should work to get more insight so that we can make those moves that make sense. All right. So, any rate, with all that said, I mean, I have for years been wanted to put together some information on I got my degree in economics, okay, many years ago. And I got into sales many years ago. And then I got into trucking many years ago. But they all just go together so well. And economics, there are things that I wanted to bring to this industry. And, I put together a lot of material, a lot of things, but just recently, it's like, you know what? This just makes sense. Let me put this together, the way I see it. And what I would really love to do is to be able to share that information with you all. I've shared it with some people already, and they really, really took to it and liked what I was putting together. And I want to be able to um, put that out there. And what it is that you have these different economic indicators, and we've written about it. It's on our blog at elevatefr8.com. That's elevate, elevate, and you go to the blog, and we've got information in there, economic stuff. And it's very important. I mean, I think we explain it well enough so that it makes sense and ties into the trucking industry and how that impacts trucking and how you can use it to your benefit, to your advantage. And so I'm working to put together, we even have some information in there about the inverted yield curve, which has to do with the bonds market and how the 2 year and the 10 year, how they cross. And, but, that then gets us talking about recession possibilities. But any rate, I think it's interesting. You might go in there and check it out because it would be relevant today. But at any rate, I'm working to put together these different indices and indicators, economic indicators. Because if you know something about an indicator, you might sit back and say, you know what? Oh, wait a minute. It looks like this is about to happen. And therefore, I need to be in this sector, in dairy, or I need to be in agriculture, or I need to be looking for shippers in this sector, whatever that might be, aluminum, you know, based upon real information that you have, and you're able to make better, or maybe I need to get out of that, or maybe you're able to make better decisions. And so we have these indicators that I've put together, and I think they're explained really well as to what they are and how they tie into trucking. And if you know about them, you can see things differently. It's not always about the broker. It's not always about this. It's not always about that. You see things in a different way to the point where you can actually grow your business. You can actually develop a strong, solid foundation and actually grow your business. Okay. So I'm putting something out, putting it together. I'd love for you all to be a part of this. And we put these numbers together. We actually are going to have a barometer that gauges how the economy is going for us, what it looks like. And it will tell us even how we can take advantage of the situation at hand right now. And then we'll do some longer term outlooks as well. But I think all this stuff that we're putting together is going to be very simple because it's going to be like a step by step by step, real simple in terms of what this information says and how you can use it. You know, we'll give you real world application in regards to how you can use it. And then you'll be able to, we'll even give you scripting on how this can be used. You know, I mean, there's so much that we're going to be putting into this, but it's something that will really help you to see your business in a way that you can see it 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, you know, 20 years down the road. You can see that there's opportunity for your business to grow. And then we're also going to be looking to have a get together. I don't know if it'd be a webinar, but we would be able to come together and actually talk about this stuff, right? We'll have this information. It'll come out on a weekly basis. So you'll have the information. So then you would be able to plan for the week, plan for the month based on this information that we'll put out. And then, say Friday, like today, we'll be able to get together. We can talk about the week. We can talk about the information. We can talk about, you know, our experiences. We can really be able to network. Because like some of the people that I've communicated with in regards to this, they have mentioned some things that were, I think, really valuable for others, right? And then there's information that they need, but I think that we could really synergize and find ways to really uh, be able to achieve those goals that we're trying to achieve. You know, no one got into this business just to stay the same. That's the thing, you know. I mean, if you are fine with that, hey, there's no problem with that. None whatsoever. But if you are looking to grow, if you are looking to go to the next, which I hear a lot of carriers say, but I don't know what they're doing about it, because a couple of years later, I find them in the same spot. But if you are really looking to move forward and do some things, I mean, I know there's other factors out there, but sometimes we get caught up on these other factors and we don't get outside of our comfort zone. You know, we do not get outside of our comfort zone. And that can be that just the getting outside the comfort zone where we absorb something new. And then, you know, you can let yourself go from there. But to absorb something new, you know, when we're talking about tariffs, when we're talking about China, when we're talking about, you know, those on Wall Street, those on Main Street, we play a part in all that. You have investors, you know, they're good drivers, good carriers are needed. With this information, one of the things that we're going to be showing you is how you can use this information when you are communicating with shippers, how to build those relationships, how this can be so effective and powerful. Even though we could still, you know, make calls for you, this is your business. And we want to be able to bring to you how you are able to take advantage of whatever times it is. If it looks like things are horrible, there's an opportunity to take advantage of that. When things are really good, there's a way to take advantage of that, right? When things are horrible, that's when rich people get richer. When the market's down, that's when they buy. When it goes up, that's when they profited from when the market was down. As Trump said, I think the other day, or Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary said, or someone said, I don't know who, maybe Trump said, you know, I think when, I don't know, I think it was yesterday, but buy, talking about buy in the markets, because what? The market's down. You know, a lot of those big stocks are going to go back up, you know, that's just the way it is, you know. So you got this rich guy saying, buy. Maybe want to listen to him, right? So invest in yourself, invest in yourself, invest in yourself. You know, gain some knowledge, gain some understanding, develop some relationships so that you can see, again, investing. We're talking about the future. You invest now and you see that growth in the future. Stay the same now, market goes up, market goes down. You just have to kind of be guided by the market. You mean the market will twirl you around, but if you take a little bit of control of it, you can ride the wave. Okay. So basically, what I'm saying is this in the end. Yes, there's the tariffs that are out there, but man, I don't know if we're talking about trying to deal with China, because that is something to be dealt with. Um, I'm listening. I'm listening. I'm listening. What are we doing here? Or what's the plan here, right? And then, secondly, um, based upon all of this information, we need to make decisions, right? Hey, if you're interested in this, I'm calling this freight pulse because it's going to give you the pulse of the economy, the pulse of what's going on, and you will be able to see, understand what's going on now, what has been going on in the past, what has caused these fluctuations, what's going to happen in the future, and you can then make better decisions for your trucking company and work to build relationships and use this information so that you can build relationships with shippers, and also information we're going to give you that you'll be able to share with them so that you can strengthen the relationship and look long term if that's what you're wanting to do. Okay. So, let me know if there's any interest in that. Please do. My contact information, you can reach me at paul.k at fr8connect.com, paul.k at fr8connect.com. Also, you can call me at 866-342-0040, extension 109, 866-342-0040, extension 109. And yeah, love to talk to you about it, and maybe, bring you in terms of this beta that we're doing, and see how this really makes sense, because I could really use your input, but I'm really excited about it. So other than that, hey, thank you guys for coming out. I think that's all I have. I'm sure there's more I missed out on, but great being here, and we'll see you again in another week on Friday, and you have a great weekend. All right, take care.